Dokkan is now officially nearing its 10th anniversary, so I think it's a great time to talk about this game's history by bringing up some of the old mechanics and changes you may have forgotten about. But real quick, I just want to ask you guys to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and drop a comment with your thoughts on the video. I also want to thank you guys for being here on the first anniversary of my channel. I can't believe it's already been a year and we've come so far. Thank you all so much for supporting me through thick and thin, genuinely. Now, without further ado, let's get into the video. Starting off strong, I want to tell you new players how good you have it nowadays. Back when I started playing, Dokkan made you clear each story mission 3 times, once for each difficulty. And not only that, stages made you move slower across the board, and those forced fights were so common that clearing the story to farm stones would take an eternity. There was also no type of auto map or auto battle. Everything in the game was manual. Being free to play during this time was like being in the Great Depression. You didn't even get stones for leveling up. Stones were few and far between in general. But that just brings me to my next point. Summoning back in the day was grim. You weren't even guaranteed an SSR during multi-summons, and the rates were so low that people thought single summons were better odds for SSR since you'd get a different animation every time. And speaking of animations, here are some of the old ones. I remember seeing Hercule on the left, right, or the Saiyan pods and thinking I was going to get something good. But back then, the best animation you could get is Shenron, Rainbow Text with no Super Saiyan, or SSJ3, because those were guaranteed SSRs. For a long time, the only screen crack animation was Bye Guys Goku. Also, another thing you don't see anymore are these type-specific banners that were full of garbage units but made every summon feel hype because you were able to pull awakened units, including URs, which just isn't a thing anymore because the Dokkan ecosystem has no reason for a lot of these SR units to exist anymore, and awakened or not, a lot of the old SSRs on those banners are just straight up useless. It was a bit of a waste of stones, but definitely cool to get a bunch of SSR animations because of the awakened SR cards at the time. Now, keep in mind how I just told you how bad the summon rates were, because it explains why people were running teams of rares and SRs as their best teams. I don't know if I'll find the exact screenshot, but back in the day, Rhymestyle was running King Piccolo as his leader, who wasn't even a UR, and then literally any other card he pulled that was somewhat decent. Getting Kais were crazy hard too, so your cards were not only buns but also underleveled and did no damage. Man, what a time to be alive. There was also a short period of time when people would run gimmick cards like rare Oceanus Shenron for super attack ceiling. Ironically, during the super simple era of Dokkan, players were even more technical with teams and items. Nowadays, no one really uses anything besides Sensu Beans at most, but back then people were popping King Yemas and Icarus just to survive an AoE from a Dokkan event Broly. Now, I didn't just mention Broly because of how hard it was to beat him back in the day. I wanted to also talk about the World Tournament. To this day, I've got PTSD from playing the World Tournament in 2015 and seeing every single person on the leaderboard use STR Broly. This unit was literally what Ma Jr. Piccolo is today. Broly made the grind a lot more reasonable. There was also no point multiplier for a long time, and the only real reward was the LR Piccolo, who was the best tank in the game at the time. But the grind to get him was so tedious that not many people actually got him, which made him a rare card until he obviously came back more recently. Basically what I'm saying was, the World Tournament was somehow even worse back then. Now, moving on, I can't not talk about the free-to-play era of OG Dokkan. It was very hard to complete any event back in the day with even the best cards, so imagine how hard it was when Dokkan came out with one of the first LRs and said, you can only use free-to-play units to grind 777 medals to actually get the LR. It was pretty insane, but when the Tech LR SSJ Goku came out, there was no boost to increase drop rates and there was no support memories at all. The concept of running specific units to increase odds wasn't even a concept, because beating the events with your best team was already hard enough. For someone who was a kid back then, this was a grind that took me over a week just to get one card. And yes, I lost the account, which made me almost quit Dokkan for good. I watched so many The Truth videos without even knowing, just to figure out how to beat all the Super Strike events back then. Some of the other things you may have forgotten about are transfer codes, the old friend system, and the old UI that the game used for teams, and the character list. There was no filter for categories at all because they didn't exist, and link skills didn't need to be leveled. Team cost was a struggle though, since LRs cost 99 to run on a team, and most of the time your team cost limit would be no more than 450, meaning you couldn't run more than 4 LRs even if you had that many, no matter the event. Training was only one item at a time, and you had to train a card multiple times to level them up, even if they are only a UR. Baba's shop didn't sell anything useful besides sensu beans and a few awakening medals. It also had a limit on the medals you could buy daily for the LR Hercule, meaning that to get the terrible LR, you would have to wait at least 26 days and spend 3 million zenny each day. There were rarely any summon discounts and there were no gacha coins at all. So if you didn't get a card you wanted, tough luck, man. I nearly forgot about the dupe system because it didn't exist for a long time, and when it did, it was a bit different. For some reason, all the old mono leads and Gogeta, of course, had way more boosted stats. This is one of the things that's still in the game to this day, because even with no dupes, a 55% Gogeta has like 2,800 additional points to every stat, and my STR Broly, who's at 90%, has plus 7,140 attack, 6,034 HP, and plus 5,474 defense. So with a super easy A, these cards are basically LR stat wise. Man, old Dokkan is so nostalgic and beautiful, but I'm so grateful for what we have today because it is so much better for everyone. I don't know how I played so much back in the day. Well, actually I do know, and it's because the grind for everything was 10 times as long. Regardless, this game has been a part of my life for almost 10 years, and that's insane. Make sure to let me know anything I forgot about in the comments, because it has been a long time and I may have forgotten a few things you remember fondly. Anyways, that's all I got for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and thank you all for 1 year on YouTube.